This is Bill Kelly, and I'm here with Bret Cooperider of Ukiah Brewing, which was, I believe, the first certified organic.
brew pub in the nation.
All right. Now, what was it actually the first certified organic restaurant period? Because I heard of somewhere in Washington D.C.
Second certified organic restaurant in the country.
Okay.
Washington, D.C. Nora's Cafe is the first.
All right. Well, cool. Well, welcome. And anything you'd like to say, just like first half about your brewery that you think everybody should know about, other than the fact that it's certified organic and it's got that very good distinction? What are you most proud of about the brewery?
I think that it's kind of become the meeting place for folks in Ukiah. We have a lot of people tell us that, it's the place that they come and they feel comfortable and there's no televisions and that it's conducive to meeting and talking to people, which I kind of like. Yeah.
Nice. And so what's your background with beer, and how did you start?
I got started, thank you. Actually got hired when my brother left the second brew pub in the state of Colorado, in Fort Collins, Colorado. He left on an art tour. We're 1 year apart. A lot of people think we're twins. I applied for the job. They instantly said, "You're a perfect replacement for Sid," who's my brother who works with me here also. He's the restaurant manager. And I was bartending initially, 21 years old, and trying to learn more and more about beer because I was fascinated about, what these old guys in the brew house were doing. So I popped my head in there whenever I could, asked what they were doing, and they'd say, "Grab those hops, throw them in the kettle, shovel out the mash tun." And it got to the point where one of them stopped showing up entirely, and then I was doing everything. Then I was cleaning tanks downstairs and transferring beers, and a couple months later, I was doing it on my own. The boss walked in and said, "Where's Al? Where's Jim?" I said, "I don't know. I don't think they're coming in today." And he said, "But we're brewing." And I said, "Yes, we are." And he said, "Who's doing the brewing?" And I said, "I am." And he said, later in the day, he said, "Well, I guess we could call you assistant brewer then." So that was my start.
Nice.
And I actually moved into brewing full time then. So.
Nice. And how long has Ukiah Brewery been around?
We opened May 30th, 2000. Yeah.
And where does that fit in the scope of Mendocino County, Northern California breweries?
Well, definitely the new brewery in the county. I know that Mendocino Brewing Company is over 25 years old. I believe since when I worked at Anderson Valley, they were 10 years old while I was there, so they got to be over 20. Same with North Coast. And yeah, so I'm definitely the new guy. We'll be 10 in May of 2010.
Yes. What can you tell us about the food here and the focus on the restaurant, the kitchen?
My family is very focused on sustainable agriculture. Basically providing food for people that's free of pesticides, herbicides, any other contaminants, no GMOs. So that commitment transferred almost immediately upon opening. Within 1 year, every last item in the restaurant was certified, so that we could certify our process. The beer is also certified through CCOF and Mendocino Renegade. And yeah, basically what I think people recognize is after 10 years of doing this, that we have a real commitment to providing pure food to people. Yes, it does cost a little more, and that cost transfers to the customer, but I'd say that the bulk of our clientele realize that and appreciate what we're trying to do.
And do you source mostly locally as far as the animal products or the vegetables and things?
We source as much locally as possible. We also have made a commitment this year to not serve produce that we can't get even inside California. You'll notice on the menu right now we serve no tomatoes. Organic tomatoes are being grown in Mexico and maybe Argentina, Chile, but we're not buying those. We've decided that the items that we can't get organically grown close to home, we're going to leave off the menu. Which, is a little odd. The predominant response from folks is, "Wow, I guess I really appreciate that. Thank you." Though some people say, "No tomatoes? You guys are nuts. You're going to go out of business." We hear things like that all the time.
Well, that's interesting because I'm actually doing the same thing at home myself, and that's been just in the last few months where I'm really making the focus on like where's this coming from,
Right.
you know. And there's a lot of reasons for it. First of all, it's close to home. It's not being flown in or shipped in from halfway around the world,
Exactly.
which lowers quality. And I think just in the state of the economy too, it's nice to support your local economies and things like that too. So there's so many reasons to do that. So that's great.
Well, I think a lot of people are starting to realize that there is an extra added cost you may not see in a cheap tomato that comes here from South America, but there is a cost. And, besides the fact that, when our local growers bring us tomatoes, they are fantastic, full of flavor, grown under the sun, not under lights or in a greenhouse or hothouse somewhere. So yeah, I think it really makes a big difference. And, it's also very satisfying to know that we can hand a check directly to a farmer. It's not going to a warehouse first where the farmer's delivering his food. It may sit there for a while. We often get the food from our local purveyors that is picked and brought to us the same day, and that's a good feeling.
All right, well, these are my toys. Essentially the same as most other breweries. I like to think of it as a glorified home brewing system. Start out doing 5 gallons, move to 10 or 15, and then go to 220. It's a 7-barrel system with a little bit of an undersized mash tun. This is about the cleanest I think this copper has been in 10 years, which is kind of nice. We have an anniversary coming up on May 30th, so hopefully we'll keep it about this clean until then. We do essentially 219 gallons cast out from this system, and we have 4 fermenters over here. Just had one stretch last year by a friend on the coast. We now have 2 packaging tanks over here. We're doing a bunch of cleaning of roughly, that's why it's kind of a mess in here. But we put our packaged products in there when we run them to this here behind the box, the world's smallest canning line made by Cask Brewing Systems in Calgary, Canada. So 2 or 3 guys can run this system and do 12, 13, 14, up to 17 cases an hour. And then of course we got some cans over here. And cans are not cheap. I think Budweiser pays a penny a piece for them. I pay 11 cents a piece for them. And I had to buy $20,000 worth at once to get started. That's a pretty penny for a small brewery. But we're still distributing, doing that here in the county. We provide local farmers, pig farmers, cattle farmers, and farmers with our spent grain and the hops, and we get a little bit of nice organic pork and beef for ourselves every once in a while from that. We also have, this is just one room devoted to brewing. This was brewing, fermentation, packaging. We also have out in the back a shed on the side of the building that has our mill and our grain storage and hop freezers. The grain is run by a motor right up there on top of the grist case that pulls it all up through a flex auger and drops it in the grist case. We do that the night before. And then down in the back of this really old building, this building's 125 years old, is a tiny cellar. It's got a 12-foot wide, 35-foot long cellar, and we stuffed 6 serving tanks in there, and we can serve as many as 6 kegs. So we occasionally have 12 beers on draft, and I think we're really close to that right now. So,
What would you say is the difference between home brewing and brewing on a more commercial scale? I mean, is it just more? Is it just bigger stuff? Is it kind of the same principles?
When you brew on the commercial scale, you can leave home. Your wife's kitchen can stay clean, and you can make a big mess here, clean it up, and when you come home, she can still smile at you.
Nice.
Home brewing can be a bit of a mess. All grain brewing is, certainly fun. The nice thing, I guess, about this is, having the temperature control on the tanks. The variability in some home brewing is difficult, though. I'm quite surprised at how advanced home brewing has gotten compared to when I started brewing. Actually, I would say compared to when my father started home brewing in the early 80s, it's come a long way. I remember walking through the kitchen with my feet sticking to the floor. And, you know, Pops made some good beer, and Pops made some bad beer, too. I think he used to give some of the bad beer to us. I'll have to ask my brother if that's true. Yeah, it's nice to do it on this scale, though this is actually quite small in my mind still. I mean, this is a 7-barrel brew house. I've worked on, you know, 30 and 50, and I kind of like pub brewing. And the reason I like pub brewing is because there's creativity. A new head brewer here was able to throw a recipe out and brew it right away, which is nice. I get to change up the brews a little bit if you're not packaging and sending it out to the public. Maybe consistency isn't that important. I've always kind of claimed that, you know, if I want to tweak a beer a little bit and change it slightly because I think I can improve it, why not? I'll always hear from the customers right away if they don't like it, and I can make up my mind whether I'm going to go back or you know, keep changing it. So it's fun.
Nice. Well, cool. And anything else you'd like to add?
I think more people should brew organic, and I'd like everybody to support sustainable agriculture and to be well aware of what they put in their bodies and their children's bodies, and that any business that can make a commitment to being local and sustainable is doing their community and the world at large a favor.
Awesome. I agree.
Right.